Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm your host, Veteran Mountain Man, and it's another Spiritual Thursday, and I actually wanted today to talk about that mass binding spell from a year ago that the Oracle of LA and many other LA types have been pushing on President Trump. Now, one of the reasons I got to thinking about this again was because I watched a YouTube clip from a group that calls themselves the Open Source Occult TV. Very interesting group of individuals. They've got some very good content on YouTube. And they were talking about this mass binding being a failure. Well, I see it more of the fact that the people who did this were frankly not very bright. What they were calling a binding wasn't really a binding. Now, I don't disagree that this stuff is going to come back on the people who did attempt it. I truly do think that it was not necessarily a lack of occult understanding that caused it, but a fundamental lack of understanding what their intentions were deep in their mind. See, no matter how much you virtue signal, no matter how much you think something is going to happen, in reality, when you attempt a binding, you have to know that the person has ill intent, or the binding just simply won't work. And the reason being is because that's what gives the binding a foothold. It's what allows the binding to anchor to the person and enact. And to be fair, I don't truly think President Trump has any malicious intent. Everything I've seen out of the man shows that he is genuinely trying to do what public opinion and his own ideas state should be done for the country. And when you start looking at an individual like that, trying to prescribe malice to that action is a lot harder than just saying it is malicious or saying it's racist or saying it's something else. And so all of these people who rushed to claim that he was morally abhorrent and evil rushed to try to do something about it instead of actually looking to see what was going on. So they let themselves fall into propaganda. They let themselves fall into the ideas of the mainstream media instead of actually taking time to critically think, which is something that most of your spiritual variants tell you to do. You have to think and analyze things for yourself. You have to look them over and mull them over and think on them and contemplate them. And until you've done all of these things, you can't actually do anything on either side because you don't know what to do. Even then, in many cases, magic isn't called for. It should only be used in the most minimalist way and only for very specific reasons. And so trying to throw these kind of powers around willy-nilly at a whim because you lost a political argument, I'm sorry, but frankly, you've proven your ignorance and your willfulness and your childishness. And I'm going to feel very bad for you as those things return on you, because it doesn't return in a level of 3. It returns as it wills. It returns as the universe dictates it does. And sometimes that's much bigger than in 3s. Sometimes it's 10s, sometimes it's thousands, or sometimes it's very little at all. Well, I want to thank you all again for joining me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on my YouTube or my BitChute channels. Also, don't forget I do this weekly podcast for the unapologeticpagan.com and their website. Thank you all, and have yourselves a beautiful Thursday.